Damn it.
King, get that shit again. Get that shit again. Get that shit
Hey, I don't got shooters. I know I'm cooler than the coolers. I know the way you keep alcohol. I know that I'm not all of my niggas savages. Me no throwing like scavengers. I know that the vibe got hazardous. I love these cracking Bible passages. My girl's like I have Merlin. She love the matches like Merlin. And the boss like a Irvin. Shit, they kept getting in this detergent. Shit, I let the cat out the bag. I get it, let the dick outside. Let it breathe. Just a minute. Baby, please, I'm already there. Decking in greenery everywhere. Our purpose in me is love affair. Smelling the trees is a buzzhead. I can be down with the team, you be my pair.
This is my style.
Do it with this in my attention. The crowd go wild. So I guess I'm a people spitting. Nigga got my power style. What you smoking, no honorable mention. I'm rocking it better than you.
Now that echo is a son of a bitch. I can't figure out where that echo's coming from. I can't. Let me take that comment off, man. Welcome to Coffee and Bong Hits. Man, we ain't fucking around today. Whoops, sorry, church kids. We made it 2 minutes. 2 minutes. That's it. 2 minutes. This is Coffee and Bong Hits with Jessie. I am Jessie Sponberg. Thank you for tuning in today. Especially if you're actually watching this on the website. If you're watching this on the website, let me know. Good morning, Miss Bones Jones. Good morning, Anthony, Fenda, Marty, Erica, Corey. I don't know if I'm missing somebody. My bad. Could somebody check the website and make sure this is coming up on the website? Let me know. It's a work in progress, man. I understood why more people don't have websites. I always say to people, why don't you just cut a website, G? That shit is hard, man. That's why everybody just keeps all their business on Facebook, man. Yo, the Facebook exodus has really begun for me. I'm about to figure out how to pull all my photos off and shut down my accounts. Only keep maybe the Coffee and Bong Hits account. Just don't need it. Just don't need it, man. I just don't. Like, it's like, how else am I gonna find out about some TV show I don't watch? Oh no. Or how else am I gonna find out about the news 3 days after it happened? So anyways, I think Zuckerberg is supposed to testify today. We're going to keep an eye on that. And then, of course, Joe Biden at some point this morning will be holding a press conference. His first press conference, which is weird because, whoa, yeah, it's the Twitter dude. Oh, so that people know you're serious about life, right? But
Mr. Zuckerberg.
Look, Zuck's on trial right here.
The Capitol insurgency, Sheryl Sandberg did an interview in which she insisted that the siege was largely planned on smaller platforms. But court filings actually show something quite the.
Yeah, that lady's got a big enough face that I can put it on the small screen. I can keep talking on the main one. Well, I'll stop talking when Zuck comes off.
Coordinate real time during.
Man, it's so crazy. Like,
and so my question for you is, will you admit today that Facebook groups in particular played a role in fomenting the extremism that we saw and that led to the Capitol siege?
Congresswoman, thanks for the question on this. In the comment that Cheryl made, what I believe that we were trying to say was, and what I stand behind, is what was widely reported at the time. That
robot son of a bitch.
After January 6th.
You know, I'm sorry to interrupt, as many of my colleagues have had to do, because we only have 5 minutes. But would you say that, and would you admit that Facebook played a role?
Congresswoman, I think certainly there was content on our services, and from that perspective, I think that there's further work that we need to do to make our services and moderation more effective.
I hear that. Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Pichai a question. Many companies have used Section 2.
Look, this Twitter dude is a real life bad guy. Watch. You think Zuck's a bad guy? Wait till you see this dude.
Consumer protection laws. And I have a bill that would actually not protect companies that do that. And so, Mr. Pichai, would you agree that that would be a proper
watch. Wait for it.
Allow
wait for it.
Protection for those who
when you go to the barber and you're like, give me the supervillain look. Watch.
Congresswoman, consumer protection laws are very important.
Oh, this ain't the guy.
This
ain't that some bullshit. I don't know who this dude is.
Approaches to have.
Okay, look, we still got an eyeball on Joe Biden's press conference.
Okay, I'm gonna have to interrupt again. Is that a yes?
This lady's getting mad.
That if a law has been broken, a consumer protection law, that there would not be liability protection under Section 230 for you.
We rely on the liability protections to actually take strong action in particularly new types of content. When the Christchurch shooting happens, within a few minutes,
what's up, Elvon?
Teams have to make decisions about the content to take down. That certainty is what we rely on. But I agree with you that we should have strong consumer protection laws. And
you think everybody's an oath keeper, Elvon?
Like the FTC have clear oversight over those.
I just want to hang out until we see the Twitter guy, because the Twitter guy's a bad guy.
Just ask a real yes or thank you. A real yes or no, quickly. Do you think that when you take money to run advertisements that promote disinformation, that you are exempt from liability? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Section 230.
Mr. Zuckerberg, yes or no?
Congresswoman, I don't know the legal answer to that, but we don't allow misinformation in our ads. And any ad that's been fact-checked as false, we don't allow it to run as an ad.
Okay, and Mr. Dorsey?
Again, I also would need to review the legal process.
This guy.
We would not allow that.
Okay, and Mr. Pichai.
That's the dude. I waited this whole time just so we could see that dude. So Joe Biden's going to speak pretty soon, and all of the.
Okay, let me ask one more question.
All of the people who are anxious.
Do you think that Section 230 should be expanded to trade agreements that are being made?
Get after. I bet when Dirty Black shows up today in a little bit, he's gonna use all of this as an example to get off of this kind of social media and get on blockchain. I don't know exactly how that's gonna work. I just know what these people say.
230 to reflect the kind of modern reality and what we've learned over 25 years. But that said, I do still think that Section 230 plays a foundational role.
This dude's so crazy looking. Like, why wouldn't you just fake move your face once in a while so that people didn't ask if you, speaking of fake moves on your face. That lady lives in quite an opulent house with many fine framed black and white photos. That's if you got a lot of black and white photos, man, your family did okay. Right? A lot of people in the black and white days was rocking photos. Yo, we're still staying with Joe Biden. Look, I'm done watching those clowns. I'm going to switch over to this Joe Biden. this Joe Biden press conference. Hold on. They just got the screen set up right now. Anyways, also going on today in Georgia, they have the craziest shit's going on in Georgia. They're having a vote today in the Georgia House of Representatives, I believe, about some new election reform. I guess not laws. What would it be? Election reform referendums or some amendments to their election law. I'm not exactly sure how you would word it. Forgive me for not knowing every single thing in the world. So it would make it illegal to give people bottled water if they're standing in one of those long ass lines for like 8 hours in the Georgia sun so that they can vote. They'll make it illegal to give those people water. And it is really a travesty. Gosh, I hate to use that word. That's the most cliche word you could imagine, but except for you can imagine, that's more cliche too. Just pull it together, bro. What is it, 1860? You just using old whistling Dixie references. These Georgia voter, give me the news. So they're voting today. Bill changing. Oh man, it passed. Look, just since the show's been on. Bill changing Georgia voting rules. See, they didn't even know really what to call it. Voting rules. Rules. What's a rule? The Georgia House. Yeah, I'll pull over to this because Joe Biden. Is Joe Biden doing anything over here? No, people don't even look serious. Look, everybody's social distanced. Okay, let's go real quick to this other article I got. Forgive me for leaning in. Sorry that makes my giant freaking face show up. Man, you know something that sucks, man, is I have my city face and I have no sun on it, and I haven't seen the sun in like forever. I've just been sitting in my apartment forever, and I'm not going to show you guys again. I showed you guys the other day, but I don't even have a tan line anymore. And then this morning, a picture from Hawaii showed up in my timeline. Like Google was like, "Hey, here's a memory you might enjoy." And so I looked at it, and there was so much sun on my face, and all my gray hairs were like just beach-looking hair, right? And I had dirt all over my face, like, "Were you just washing in the middle?" And then right after I looked at that, I looked in the mirror and looked at the face that I got right now. I was just like, fuck, you old, ugly son of a bitch. We only break the bird cam out for special occasions. We can't make that part of the show. I get too distracted by the bird cam and I can't stay on task. I end up just I end up staring at the birds for a long ass time and forgetting what I was supposed to say. You guys might have noticed that I do that sometimes. Oh, all right, look, here is the story. Let me just try to bring it up. Okay, the Georgia House voted Thursday to overhaul election laws after last year's close presidential election, with proposals including new absentee voting requirements, drop box limits, and state takeovers of local election management. The measure drew fierce debate and protest over voting rights in Georgia, with opponents saying it would disenfranchise voters and supporters arguing that it would safeguard election integrity. So as we all know, the last election in Georgia was not that close, according to the election department representatives, right, and their spokespeople. So, but the president went there like a crackhead and tried to get Georgia to find him, like, what was it, like 2,100 votes? He called him like a dope fiend. He was like, hey, I'm going to pawn a couple space heaters later and I'll pay you back. So absentee voters will be required to submit driver's license numbers or other documentation. In addition, there'll be as little as a week of early voting before runoffs. Blah, blah, blah. I'm looking for the specific one. You better mention it. Don't bury the headline. Don't bury the headline. Look, it's a 95-page bill. When it left the Georgia Senate, I remember reading this earlier. When it left the Georgia Senate, it was 2 pages long. And now it's 95 pages. That's what happens, man. We just fatten these up, put crazy shit in there. Bury the headline, 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 bury the headline. Sold. They didn't even give us what we were looking for. Okay, so what I was looking for was a specific wording regarding not being able to give bonus refreshments to people that are waiting in line to vote. Man, it's hot in Georgia. I don't know if you guys ever been to Georgia. It's freaking hot. Speaking of hot, if you want to look cool, that's the worst segue. That's the worst segue I ever done before. Speaking of hot, if you want to look cool, you should get some gear from standupandfightback.bigcartel.com. Standupandfightback.bigcartel.com. Exclusively on .bigcartel.com. That's where you get all your edgy anti-fascist gear. Don't forget, if you're not watching today's show on urbansurvivorman.com, you should be watching the show on urbansurvivorman.com, because I swear to God, we're so close to just exploding with the best silhouette logo in the business, the Aloha Wall Walker. Michael Jordan might be wearing shorts too, but he's indoors. This was taken on the edge of Keho Bay, where they chased a manta ray all day. Don't forget, Joe Biden is going to have a push-up contest in just a little bit, Jack. And that's all just to prove to Momo, who's been going, how come Joe Biden hasn't had a press conference? How come Joe Biden fell down the stairs? How come Joe Biden has kids in cages? I had kids in cages before it was cool. Look, Jack, we're going to have a push-up contest. Precisely. Let me see. What time is the push-up contest? Not yet. It's close. Anyways, this is probably why we struggle to break the top 1,000 worldwide for news podcasts. So let me, before one of the homies shows up to make my day better, let me just remind you guys that Trump's lawyer, Sidney Powell, is actually arguing right now in court that no reasonable person could have believed the bullshit that she was trying to feed us about election fraud in Georgia, right? No reasonable person would have believed that there was actually evidence, right? She said something like they were going to release the Kraken or some shit. Remember, her and Rudy Giuliani were sitting up there like the biggest jerks in the world, just rubbing their hands together and just go, you'll see, we're going to release the Kraken. There'll be so much evidence, you could choke a donkey with it, right? Now that lady right now, because she's being sued by those voter machine companies, she's like, man, come on, bro. Nobody would have believed that shit except Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, that mean-looking lady that told LeBron just to dribble. They believed it. People built whole personalities around it. People went to the Capitol and tried to have a civil war and killed the cop over it. And what is her defense? What is her defense? No reasonable person would believe her election fraud claims. She's exactly right, but at least have some shame in saying it, man. That is so insane to me. And still no press conference from Joe Biden. But that's all right. It's still early in the show. I don't actually think the press conference is coming until after the bottom of the hour. So that means we're going to see Red Panda. And at 10:30 at 10:35, we play independent hip hop videos. And then at the end of the month, we put them together in a show called 10:35 a.m. Music to Smoke To. And that's to help raise awareness for mealexchange.com. Mealexchange.com. I wish I was a bird, yo. That'd be dope. But if I can't be a bird, maybe I'll get a mullet. Maybe I'll be a bird in my heart. Maybe I'll have a mullet in my heart. Maybe I'll get a pair of sick mullet, custom, polarized, UV fashion eyewear, brother. Then we'll shoot the birds. All right, remember, nobody with a mullet can be trusted, at least not to keep a schedule. Okay, let me also remind you guys that every time I get high on the show, it's brought to you by Binger Glass Designs, whether it's a fat binger like this or just a little smackerel. I ate a stem or some shit. My bad. That's like the time that they paid me to eat kratom at the Dragon Herbarium. They're like, Jessie, we want you to do a live episode from the Dragon Herbarium. And I was like, all right. And I took some kratom and I got so sick. I thought I was gonna die. I thought I was gonna die. Double mutant COVID. Damn. Look, from the makers of the double blade razor comes double mutant COVID. And if there's one thing that history has taught me, it's that the mutation is going to go into triple blade soon. And then, historically speaking, the maker of the triple blade thought that he was unstoppable. This man felt like Yertle the Turtle, right? He was like, I made the triple blade razor and no one can ever top me. And the folly of the man was such that he never saw the quad blade razor coming. Took him completely by surprise, man. He just never saw it. I mean, you're like, how couldn't he? But then really, how could he? Like, triple blade was really the cutting edge of technology. Yo, shout out to Zane Thomas for me using a Zane Thomas style joke right there. All right, where were we? So either addiction or there's either addiction or dirty black coming through. Hopefully both of them. They're scheduled. They're busy though, so I just left it open-ended. I was like, regardless, me and Joe Biden, we finna get funky today. So don't forget, man, there was a time when people lived in houses like this, and this is super cool to me. Look, they just got bones on the outside. That's so dope to me. That's so dope to me. All right, remember this, kids. Hey, are you in need of versatile amphibious footwear, but you're super scared that you're going to turn into one of those people that wears Crocs with long pants because you just couldn't not fall in love with them? Check it out. Get fake Croc brand fake Crocs. Get it? Fake Croc brand fake Crocs. Don't get fake Croc fake Crocs. Get real fake Crocs fake Crocs, because they'll break way before you need them. Also brought to you by Shane McLemore Toys. Shane McLemore Toys and custom action figures is really, really, really blowing up. Like, the shit they're doing, even if you don't plan on spending any money, just go to Instagram and follow Shane McLemore Toys, and you'll see cool shit like Lamborghini Terry. Remember this. If just the fact that Lamborghini Terry is obviously on some shit, and obviously Lamborghini Terry got the girls, does not. Okay, let me put this another way. This is terrible. This is a terrible commercial, but look, see where it says an adult collectible, not a toy? You shouldn't need that to not get your children a Lamborghini Terry. action figure. That's all. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to do that. Did I mention Momo? All right. Did I mention Momo? How come Joe Biden doesn't have a press conference? Why did Joe Biden fall on the stairs? I'm just asking. I thought Joe Biden was cool. Well, he fell on the stairs, Jack. All right. So it is 10:25. Whoa, this dude. Look, hold on. I gotta show you this dude because I've had this haircut before. Hold on. Hold on. I gotta show you this guy. We gotta be ready anyways for this, but look, I'm gonna just show you this dude's hair. Oh shit, somebody's coming. Somebody's coming. It might get crunk around here. Let's see what time it is.
Deliver talk to the filibuster rules, but he hasn't really been specific.
Look, you ever had your hair like that, dude?
Republicans talk. We should make them.
I've had that hair before.
Talking filibusters as opposed to this sort of silent filibuster of the modern Senate. What he has not addressed is, on the one hand, there's a proposal for that Jeff Merkley from Oregon has advanced.
Jeff Merkley.
That would.
We got the Oregon name drop. That's like.
And debate.
That's like the area code song. Who's your senator? So Jeff Merkley. Yeah. Is it Nancy Pelosi? Hell no. Is it Jeff Merkley? Hell yeah. Is it Chuck Schumer? Hell no. That's the move right there. Just shout out. Forget like, who's the 503? Who's the 808? Then the 541 people are just like, all lives matter. Look, if you got 541 is an all lives matter area code. You can't even lie. Look, tell me you know somebody that has a 541. Tell me you know somebody that's a 541. It's not an all lives matter person. Every single person with a 541 area code. That's some all lives matter shit. All right, look, let me take this bong hit while we got just a couple minutes. Hey, what I want to know from you guys today, though, is what are you smoking this morning? And let's not forget that every time I take a fat binger, it's brought to you by Binger Glass Designs, 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 Glass Designs, Glass Designs. Okay, I ain't got a lot of time because we're creeping up on look, man, you know, what's up, Josh Larson? Hey, shout out to Shut Up Stupid. Rest in peace to the first 12 of them. Where we at? Hold on. So, yeah, you got to tell me what you're smoking. That's what I want to know. Okay, what are you smoking this morning? We're waiting for, is that Joe Biden? Shit. That's probably what he's asking himself. Am I Joe Biden?
To the nation on where we stand 65 days into office here, on vaccinations and a few other top priorities for the American people. First, on vaccinations. On December 8th, I indicated that I hope to get 100 million shots in people's arms in my first 100 days. We met that goal last week by day 58, 42 days ahead of schedule. Now today I'm setting a second goal, and that is we will, by my 100th day in office, have administered 200 million shots in people's arms. Sorry, 200 million shots in 100 days. I know it's ambitious, twice our original goal, but no other country in the world has even come close, not even close to what we're doing. I believe we can do it. And today, we made a historic investment in reaching the hardest hit and the most vulnerable communities, the highest risk communities.
Hey, shit, sorry, Joe Biden. You might be the president of the United States, but you ain't the fucking president of this show. Red Panda is. Hey, this is Coffee and Bong Hits at the bottom of the hour. I'm Jussie Sponberg, you posers. Red Panda's the real moolah. We're back in 30 seconds.
$100 have gone into people's bank accounts. That's real money in people's pockets, bringing relief instantly almost. And millions more will be getting their money very soon. Very soon. One final note. Since we passed the American Rescue Plan, we're starting to see new signs of hope in our economy. Since it was passed, a majority of economic forecasters have significantly increased their projections on the economic growth that's going to take place this year. They're now projecting it will exceed 6%, 6% growth in GDP. And just this morning, we learned that the number of people filing for weekly unemployment insurance fell by nearly 100,000 persons. It's the first time in a year the number has fallen below the pre-pandemic high. So there are still too many Americans out of work, too many families hurting, and they still have a lot of work to do. But I can say to you, the American people, help is here and hope is on the way. Now I'll be happy to take your questions.
Here we go.
What the hell does that mean? Hope is on the
Hope
way.
is on the way. Help is here and hope is on the way.
Shit.
Facing your presidency, one of the defining challenges you face in the coming months is how to deliver on your promise.
Spit it out, Bane.
Issues like immigration.
Listen, Batman. You merely were elected to the White House. I was born in the White House.
United opposition from Republicans on Capitol Hill.
That's not even his own arm. Do the octopus.
That you made to the American people.
Well, I'm good. Look,
he's a octopus.
When I took office, I decided that it was a fairly basic, simple proposition.
Joe's scared as hell. He can't even talk. He's like, you see how many arms that guy has?
Problems. And the most urgent problem facing the American people, I stated from the outset, was COVID-19 and the economic dislocation for millions and millions of Americans. And so that's why I put all my focus in the beginning. There are a lot of problems, but all my focus on dealing with those particular problems. And the other problems we're talking about, from immigration to guns,
simply personal problems,
are
like walking upstairs.
Long-term problems have been around a long time. And what we're going to be able to do, God willing, is now begin one at a time to focus on those as well. And whether it's immigration or guns or a number of other problems that face the country. But the fundamental problem is getting people some peace of mind.
That was actually Joe Biden's phone going off.
So they can go to bed at night and not stare at the ceiling, wondering whether they lost their health insurance, whether they're going to lose a family member, whether they're going to be in a position where they're going to lose their home because they can't pay their mortgage, or the millions of people are going to get thrown out of their homes because of the inability to pay their rent. So we're going to move on these one at a time, try to do as many simultaneous as we can, but that's the reason why I focused as I have. And here's the deal. I think my Republican colleagues are going to have to determine whether or not we want to work together, or they'll decide that the way in which they want to proceed is to just decide to divide the country, continue the politics of division. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to move forward and take these things as they come.
Follow up, Mr. President.
What the hell does that mean?
You know, some Joe Biden does. I'm not going to defend him, but you can watch his face as you see,
progress on all of that,
like a rapper, right? You can see him trying to formulate his words so he doesn't accidentally say black kids or poor kids, you know? Like, he really tries not to trip over his words. You can see how deliberate he is. And so then he ends up just flubbing and filling in with extra shit.
Republican votes.
In private, he's a hard ER, huh?
Passed. Growing the economy. People's lives are changing. So let's see what happens. All I know, I've been hired to solve problems, not create division.
Ooh, you see him give him the
1 year.
give him a look?
Yamish.
I do that same thing. Give him
1
a
year
second
with
look.
my.
Thanks so much, Mr. President.
Hold
You've said over and over again that immigrants shouldn't come to this country right now. This isn't the time to come. That message is not being received. Instead, the perception of you that got you elected as a moral, decent man is the reason why a lot of immigrants are coming to this country and entrusting you with unaccompanied minors. How do you resolve that tension? And how are you choosing which families can stay and which can go, given the fact that even though with Title 42, there are some families that are staying? And is there a timeline for when we won't be seeing these overcrowded facilities run by CPB when it comes
You
to
knew that was a
unaccompanied
jab
minors?
when she said
Well, look, I guess
trusting you
that's
with
the flatter.
unaccompanied minors.
People are coming.
And then he started daydreaming. Didn't even hear the rest of the question.
That I'm a decent
He's
man,
winging it
whatever
now.
Phrase that, that's why they're coming, because no, Biden's a good guy. Truth of the matter is, nothing
I
has
didn't hear the rest of the
changed.
questions, though. That's why they had
As
trusted
many
with me.
people came, 28%
Yeah.
increase in children to the border in my administration, 31% in the last year in 2019 before the pandemic in the Trump administration. It happens every single solitary year. There is a significant increase in the number of people coming to the border in the winter months of January, February, March. It happens every year. In addition to that, there is and by the way, does anybody suggest that there was a 31% increase under Trump because he was a nice guy and he was doing good things at the border? That's not the reason they're coming. The reason they're coming is that it's the time they can travel with the least likelihood of dying on the way because of the heat in the desert, number one. Number two, they're coming because of the circumstances in country. In country. The way to deal with this problem, and I started to deal with it back when I was United States Senator, Vice President, for putting together a bipartisan plan of over $700 million to do with the root causes of why people are leaving. What did Trump do? He eliminated that funding. He didn't use it. He didn't do it. And in addition to that, what he did, he dismantled all the elements that exist to deal with what had been a problem and has continued to be a problem for a long time. He, in fact, shut down the number of beds available. He did not fund HHS to get the children out of those border patrol facilities where they should not be and not supposed to be more than a few days, a little while. But he dismantled all of that. So what we're doing now is attempting to rebuild a system that can accommodate what is happening today. And I'd like to think it's because I'm a nice guy, but it's not. It's because of what's happened every year. Let me say one other thing on this. If you take a look at the number of people who are coming, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of people coming to the border and crossing are being sent back. Thousands, tens of thousands of people who are over the 18 years of age and single people, one at a time coming, have been sent back, sent home. We're sending back the vast majority of the families that are coming. We're trying to work out now with Mexico their willingness to take more of those families back. But that's what's happening. They're not getting across the border. And those who are coming across the border who are unaccompanied children, we're moving rapidly to try to put in place what was dismantled, as I said. For example, of all the children who are coming across the border, over 70% are either 16 or 17 years old. We're not talking about people ripping babies from mother's arms or little 3-year-olds standing on the border. Less than, I think it's 1.5% fall in the category of the very young. So what we're doing is we're providing for the space, again, to be able to get these kids out of the border patrol facilities, which no one should be in any longer than 72 hours. And today, I went to, for example, I used all the resources available.
So 72 hours is an acceptable limit to put somebody in a cage?
And the Secretary of Defense has just made available Fort Bliss, 5,000 beds.
At least we got a number.
Be immediately available, 5,000 beds in the Texas border. So we're building back up the capacity that should have been maintained and built upon, that Trump dismantled.
Man, think what kind of life you got to be escaping.
The other thing we're doing, I might add,
to willingly just go get locked up.
Detail. No, but I mean, I don't know how much detail you want about immigration. Maybe I'll stop there and finish.
My follow-up question is, one, if you could talk a little bit about which families, why they're being allowed to stay, what the families that are
He starts
allowed
to run
stay,
on
why
when he
they're being
comes
allowed to
when
stay.
you start talking
In
about the
addition to
kid.
that, when it comes to the filibuster, which is what Zeke was asking about, there's immigration is a big issue, of course, when it related to the filibuster, but there's also Republicans who are passing bill after bill trying to restrict voting rights. Chuck Schumer.
She's asking like 6 questions.
Threat to democracy.
And
Why
they
not
dropped
pass
Chuck
a
Schumer.
Filibuster rule that at least gets around issues including voting rights or immigration. Jim Clyburn, someone of course who you know very
Every
well,
person in the room is
has
just like,
backed
she
the
just
idea
asked
of
my
a
question.
filibuster rule when it comes to civil rights and voting rights.
Well, look, I'm going to deal with all of those problems. The question is the priorities as they come and land on my plate. Let's go to the first question you asked, the first of the second questions you asked. And that is, what about dealing with families? Why are not some not going back? Because Mexico is refusing to take them back. They're saying they won't take them back, not all of them. We're in negotiations with the president of Mexico. I think we're going to see that change. They should all be going back, all be going back. The only people we're not going to let sitting there on the other side of the Rio Grande by themselves with no help are children. And what we're doing there, and it's an important point to understand. I know you understand. I don't mean to say it that way. Important point to focus on. The vast majority of people under the age of 18.
Dude's hella polite though.
Come with a telephone number on a wristband, or come with a telephone number in their pocket in the United States. A mother, a father, a close relative, a grandmama or grandpa. Well, what's happening before is it's taking literally weeks and weeks and maybe even months before anybody pick up the phone and call to see if there really was someone there. Well, we've set up a system now where within 24 hours, there's a phone call made as that child crosses the border. And then a verification system being put in place as of today to determine quickly whether or not that is a trafficker being called or that is actually a mom, a dad, and or a close relative. They're establishing that right off the bat. If it in fact is mom or dad, dad says, to take the extreme case, I got a birth certificate. Then guess what? We're getting that kid directly to that parent immediately. And so that's going to reduce significantly. There's 2 ways to reduce child populations in circumstances that are not acceptable, like being held at a Border Patrol station. One is to get them to the place where they have a relative and set a date as to when a hearing can be held. The second way to do it is put them in a Health and Human Services facility that we're occupying now, both licensed beds around the country that exist, as well as, for example, federal resources like Fort Bliss, to get them safely in a place where they can be taken care of while their fate is determined. Filibuster, fulfill filibuster. You know, with regard to the filibuster, I believe we should go back to a position of the filibuster that existed just when I came to the United States Senate 120 years ago. And that is, it used to be required for the filibuster, and I had a card on this. I was going to give you the statistics, but you probably know them. That it used to be that from between 1917 and 1971, the filibuster existed. There were a total of 58 motions to break a filibuster. That whole time. Last year alone, there were 5 times that many. So it's being abused in a gigantic way. And for example, it used to be you had to stand there and talk and talk and talk and talk until you collapsed. And guess what? People got tired of talking and tired of collapsing. Filibusters broke down and we were able to break the filibuster, get a quorum and vote. So I strongly support moving in that direction, in addition to having an open mind about dealing with certain things that are just elemental to the functioning of our democracy, like the right to vote, like the basic right to vote.
They're elemental? I've never heard that word used that way.
But here's the deal. As you observed, I'm a fairly practical guy. I want to get things done. I want to get them done consistent with what we promised the American people. And in order to do that, in a 50-50 Senate, we've got to get to the place where I get 50 votes so that the Vice President of the United States can break the tie, or I get 51 votes without her. And so I'm going to say something outrageous. I have never been particularly poor at calculating how to get things done in the United States Senate. So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, we're going to get a lot done. And if we have to, if there's complete lockdown and chaos as a consequence of the filibuster, then we'll have to go beyond what I'm talking about. Okay.
Man, I don't know what the fuck that was. He was either about to start cussing.
Saying, man, Ms. Kim.
I don't know what that was. He was like,
Thank you,
you know what?
To follow up on the filibuster, so do you believe it should take 60 votes to end a filibuster on legislation or 51?
If we could end it with 51, we would have no problem. You're going to have to, the existing rule, it's going to be hard to get a parliamentary ruling that allows 50 votes to end the filibuster, the existence of a filibuster. It's not my expertise.
Yo, it's pretty crazy that we have a show at this point in history, right? Like when the archives of these days have been written, we will be the dudes that smoke pot on TV.
Cecilia,
if you listen to this podcast,
if I have to say so myself, that's damn honorable. You'd be doing a lot of different things.
Talking about in-country problems, saying that it happens every year. You blamed the last administration. Sir, I just got back last night from a reporting trip to the border where I met 9-year-old José, who walked here from Honduras by himself, along with another little boy. He had that phone number on him, and we were able to call his family. His mother says that she sent her son to this country because she believes that you are not deporting unaccompanied minors like her son. That's why she sent him alone from Honduras. So, sir, you blame the last administration, but is your messaging in saying that these children are and will be allowed to stay in this country and work their way through this process, encouraging families like José's to come?
Well, look. The idea that I'm going to say, which I would never do, if an unaccompanied child ends up at the border, we're just going to let them starve to death and stay on the other side. No previous administration did that either, except Trump. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. That's why I've asked the Vice President of the United States yesterday to be the lead person in dealing with focusing on the fundamental reasons why people leave Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador
Thank you.
in the first place. It's because of earthquakes, floods. It's because of lack of food. It's because of gang violence. It's because of a whole range of things that when I was vice president had the same obligation to deal with unaccompanied children. I was able to get it slowed up significantly by working with the heads of state of those communities to do things like in one of the major cities, the reason people were leaving is they couldn't walk the street because their kids were getting beat up or shot or gang violence. Well, what I was able to do is not give money to the head of state because so many are corrupt, but I was able to say, okay, you need lighting in the streets to change things. I'll put the lighting in. We got a contractor. We got the type of lighting. We paid directly to the contractor, did not go through the government. And violent crime significantly was reduced in that city. fewer people sought to leave. When this hurricane occurred,
That's the dumbest story I ever
instead of us
heard.
going down and helping in a major way so that people would not have a reason to want to leave in the first place because they didn't have housing or water or sustenance, we did nothing. We're going to do a lot in our administration. We're going to be spending that $700+ million a year to change the life and circumstances of why people leave in the first place. That mother did not sit around with on the kitchen table and say, you know, I got a great idea. Why I'm going to make sure my son gets taken care of is I'm going to put how old was he or she?
He's 9. I also met a 10-year-old.
A 9-year-old. I'm going to send him on a 1,000-mile journey across the desert and up to the United States because I know Joe Biden's a nice guy and he'll take care of him. What a desperate act to have to take. The circumstances must be horrible. So we can do something about that. That's what the vice president's going to be doing. What I did when President Obama asked me to come and deal. I was in.
Man, I kind of believe, homie, like whatever. I mean, all politicians suck,
put
but
together a plan and it had an impact. And so the question here is how we go ahead and do this, what we do. There's no easy answer.
he's crushing this press conference, though.
Do you want to see these unaccompanied minors?
Joe Biden has always
staying
spoke
in
really well.
This country, or
It's
should
his
they be
policy
deported
that's
eventually?
concerning.
Well, the judgment.
I'm always
has to be made
concerned.
whether or
I'm always
not
concerned with how he
he's
talks
doing
after
his
3
case. If his mom at
Budweisers.
home, there's a
He'll
overwhelming
fight
reason
you.
why he'd be put in a plane and flown back to
He'll
his
do
mom.
dirty style boxing, 10 paces.
Follow, sir. You
That's why he wants to
mentioned,
take away the guns.
circumstances
He
that
wants
must
people to
be
fist fight
horrific.
more.
The Customs and Border Protection Facility.
I
in
wish somebody would
Johnstown,
ask him
I
about
was
the
there,
guns.
Is at 1,556% capacity
Yep.
right now with mostly unaccompanied minors. There are kids that are sleeping on floors. They are packed into these pods. I've spoken to lawyers who say that some of these children have not seen the sun in days. What's your reaction? What is your reaction to these images that have come out from that particular facility? Is what's happening inside acceptable to you? And when is this going to be fixed?
That's a serious question, right? Is it acceptable?
He said Ice Cube didn't see the sun for
That's
66
why
days.
we're going
Look
to
at
be
him.
moving 1,000 of those kids out quickly. That's why I got Fort Bliss opened up. That's why I've been working from the moment this started to happen to try to find additional access for children to be able to safely, not just children, but particularly children, to be able to safely be housed while we follow through on the rest of what's happening. That is totally unacceptable. Ken.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you about Afghanistan. You
Right.
face a May 1st deadline for the withdrawal of U.S. troops from that country. As a candidate in foreign affairs, you wrote that it is past time to end these forever wars. Can you commit to the American people that by May 2nd, the U.S. will no longer have forces in Afghanistan?
The answer is that it's going to be hard to meet the May 1 deadline. Just in terms of tactical reasons, it's hard to get those troops out. So what we've been doing, what I've been doing, and what Secretary Blinken has been doing, we've been meeting with our allies, those.
Yo, G,
nations that
I'm
have
big on
allies
listening
that
when
have
somebody says
Afghanistan as well.
and when they say me.
And
And when they say you,
do so in a safe
right?
and orderly way.
Like, are they saying I, me, or you?
Consultation with
I'm
some of
real
our
interested
allies
when they
and
say
partners
you.
and how to proceed.
Or when they say that,
And
dude.
Secretary Blinken is meeting in Brussels this week with our NATO.
That's one thing I
allies.
really despised about the last
Particularly
president
those who have
is
forces there.
his lack of accountability,
And
right?
Austin is just met with Kayani, and I'm waiting for the briefing on that. He is
Like my personal rule is
leader.
I always say we when we're celebrating.
And
Like when it's a
so you
victory,
and
I
the
always say
process
we,
beginning
and if it's shitty, I always say I.
on
Right?
how to
You don't need to bring nobody else into your
how to end
shit.
this war.
Just be like, I
It is not
fucked
my
up.
intention
Not we
to
fucked
stay
up. Like,
there
yeah, fuck you. Don't tell the rest of us we
The
fucked up.
question is, how and in what circumstances.
Depends on what it is, I guess.
That agreement that was made
Sometimes
by
we fucked up.
President Trump to leave under.
Yeah, look, we is good if you really just want to blame one person. If you're like, yo, Johnny fucked up,
We are not.
you want to be like, we fucked up, guys, and then let everybody else go. We didn't fuck up. Johnny fucked up.
Do you think it's possible that
We will leave. The question is when we leave.
I was inclusive.
Sorry, do you believe though it's
But
possible
yeah, it was
we could
Johnny.
have troops there next year?
I can't picture that being the case.
Oh shit.
Hey, Kristen.
Hey, Anna.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Given the conditions that were just laid out at the migrant facilities at the U.S. border, will you commit to allowing journalists to have access to the facilities that are overcrowded moving forward?
I will commit when my plan very shortly is underway to let you have access to not just them, but to other facilities as well.
Be able to have access to the facilities. We've obviously been allowed to be inside one, but we haven't seen the facilities in which children are packed together to really give the American people a chance to see that. Will you commit to transparency on this issue?
I will commit to transparency. And as soon as I am in a position to be able to implement what we're doing right now, and one of the reasons I haven't gone down, all my chief folks have gone down, is I don't want to become the issue. I don't want to be, bringing all the Secret Service and everybody with me to get in the way. So this is being set up, and you'll have full access to everything once we get this thing moving.
And just to be clear, how soon will that be, Mr. President?
I don't know, to be clear.
You bear responsibility for everything that's happening at the border now. I hear you talking a lot about the past administration. You decided to roll back some of those policies. Did you move too quickly to roll back
what? I'm
some of
sorry?
those policies? Did you move too quickly to roll back some of the executive orders of your predecessor?
First of all the policies are underway. We're not helping at all. Did not slow up the amount of immigration. And there's many people coming. And rolling back the policies of separating children from their mothers, make no apology for that. Rolling back the policies of remain in Mexico, sitting on the edge of the Rio Grande in a muddy circumstance with not enough to eat. I make no apologies for that. I make no apologies for ending programs that did not
people that
exist
use that line right there.
before Trump became president, that have an incredibly negative impact on the law, international law, as well as on human dignity. And so I make no apologies for that.
To ask you about foreign policy, Mr. President, overnight we learned that North Korea.
Why does this lady just keep getting to ask questions?
Missiles.
You asked that about the last three people.
And what is your red line?
You're supposed to ask one question and then move on.
Let me say
You get three
that,
questions now.
Number one,
Because of COVID?
UN Resolution 1718.
You get three
was
questions
violated
in
by
6
those
hours.
particular missiles that were tested. Number one.
Man, it's the bottom of the hour.
Consulting with
I
our
feel like
allies and partners.
I don't know what to do. I'm running.
There will be responses.
Should I run
if
through
they
the stop
choose to
sign?
Escalate.
I think we should capture this whole press conference,
also
man.
prepared.
And then devil may care, and I'll just work it out with the radio station. They can edit it however they want, right?
I like it. I like it.
Remember, the only person we work for is ourselves. So
that's what we're doing right now.
I like that. I'm gonna have to tap in. I gotta run in.
You
I'm
only got
setting
another hour.
surveillance in here.
Diplomacy, can you define
So
what you mean?
I'm gonna end it with the 5,000 right here and keep it going.
hey,
for the
hey,
half hour.
yeah. Hey, tap in when you free up, because
The top foreign policy issue.
there's a lot of shit cracking,
That's how
man.
you assess the
I dig
crisis in
it.
North Korea.
I dig it.
Yeah. I'll see you, man.
All right, my guy.
Okay, hang on a second here. Kristen, Nancy, CBS.
Hey, this is Coffee and Bonghits. We just ran right through it.
Voting rights. And as Yamiche mentioned, Republican legislatures across the country are working to pass bills that would restrict voting, particularly Democrats fear impacting.
I'm gonna stay as long as Joe Biden stays.
Help to get you
If I can
elected.
outlast that old man, then I got
Are you
problems.
worried that if you don't manage to pass voting rights legislation, that your party is going to lose seats and possibly lose control of the House and the Senate in 2022?
What I'm worried about is how un-American this whole initiative is. It's sick. It's sick. Deciding in some states that you cannot bring water to people standing in line, waiting to vote. Deciding that you're going to end voting at 5 o'clock when working people are just getting off work. Deciding that there will be no absentee ballots under the most rigid circumstances. It's all designed, and I'm going to spend my time doing three things. One, trying to figure out how to pass the legislation passed by the House, number one. Number two, educating the American public. The Republican voters I know find this despicable. Republican voters. Folks outside this White House. I'm not talking about the elected officials. I'm talking about voters. And so I'm convinced that we'll be able to stop this because it is the most pernicious thing. This makes Jim Crow
pernicious?
like Jim Eagle. I mean, this is gigantic what they're trying to do. And it cannot be sustained. And do everything in my power, along with my friends in the House and the Senate, to keep that from becoming the law.
Is there anything else you can do about it besides passing legislation?
The answer is yes, but I'm not going to lay out a strategy in front of the whole world and you now.
Then on a related note, have you decided whether you are going to run for re-election in 2024? You haven't set up a re-election campaign yet, as your predecessor had by this time.
My predecessor needed to. My predecessor. Oh, God, I miss it. No, an answer is yes. My plan is to run for re-election. That's my expectation.
On one other note, on bipartisanship, your old friend, Mitch McConnell, says you have only spoken to each other once since you took office, and that you have moved far left since taking office. Do you see it the same way he does? Have you rejected bipartisanship?
No, I haven't at all. I've been meeting. When's the last time a president invited the opposite party down at least a half a dozen times to talk about issues, everything from how we work. We're working with a group of 20 members of the Senate right now and House on how we reestablish our ability to make computer chips, and how we get ahead of the game, how we can work together. We're working together on a bunch of things. But look, I know Mitch well. Mitch knows me well. I would expect Mitch to say exactly what he said. But this is a matter of making sure that I would like elected Republican support. But what I know I have now is I have electoral support from Republican voters. Republican voters agree with what I'm doing. And so unless Mitch says the last thing I did, this last piece of legislation, is so far left, well, then he ought to take a look at his party. Over 50% of them must be over that edge as well, because they support what I did. Okay. Where am I here?
Man, this is Coffee and Bonghits extended coverage. There's no way I could let this old man outpace me.
I have a question for you, but first, I'd like to follow up on a question from you.
They're trying to beat him down, though.
That counts as a question, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll make it quick. It's a
No,
quick
no, you
question. Regarding the filibuster, at John Lewis's funeral, President Barack Obama said he believed the filibuster was a relic of the Jim Crow era. Do you agree?
Yes.
If not, why not abolish it if it's a relic of the Jim Crow era?
That's a good question.
Successful electoral politics is the art of the possible. Let's figure out how we can get this done and move in the direction of significantly changing the abuse of even the filibuster rule first. It's been abused from the time it came into being by an extreme way in the last 20 years. Let's deal with the abuse first.
you're moving closer to eliminating the filibuster. Is that correct?
I answered your question.
You also just made some news by saying that you are going to run for re-election.
I said that is my expectation.
So is that a yes, that you are running for re-election?
Man, where did they get these reporters?
Man, I've never been able to.
This is why. This is an example of why this show has a little bit of popularity,
And if you
and
do-
we've
if you do
managed to.
run, will Vice President Harris be on your ticket?
I would fully expect that to be the case. She's doing a great job. She's a great partner.
People are just making up questions that they're thinking of off the top of their head.
President Trump?
Oh, come on. I don't even think about, I have no idea. I have no idea whether it'll be a Republican Party.
Ooh.
I know you don't have to answer my question, but I mean, do you? I mean, look, this is the way I view things. I become a great respecter of fate in my life. I set a goal.
This is cool to
in
me,
front of
man.
me to get things done for the people I care most about.
I think I like Joe Biden more right now than I ever have, ever.
Really having it stuck to them. I want to change the paradigm. I want to change the paradigm. We start to reward work, not just wealth. I want to change the paradigm. If you notice, didn't you find it kind of interesting that my Republican friends were worried about that the cost and the taxes that had to be had, if there is any tax to be had, as they talk about it, in dealing with the act that we just passed, which puts money in people's pockets, ordinary people? Do you hear them complain when they passed close to $2 trillion Trump tax cut, 83% going to the top 1%? Do you hear them talk about that at all? I love the fact that they found this whole idea of concern about the federal budget. It's kind of amazing. When the federal budget is saving people's lives, they don't think it's such a good idea. When the federal budget is feathering the nest of the wealthiest Americans, 90 of the Fortune 500 companies making billions of dollars, not paying a cent in taxes, reducing taxes to the point that people who are making, if you're a husband and wife, school teacher, and a cop, you're paying at a higher rate than the average person making $1 billion a year is. Something's wrong. Their newfound concern. I'm concerned. Look, I meant what I said when I ran, and a lot of you still think I'm wrong, and I respect that. So I'm running for 3 reasons: to restore the soul, dignity, honor, honesty, transparency to the American political system. 2, to rebuild the backbone of this country, the middle class, hardworking people and people struggling to get in the middle class. They built America, and unions built them. The 3rd reason I said I was running was to unite the country. And generically speaking, all of you said, no, you can't do that. Well, I've not been able to unite the Congress, but I've been uniting the country based on the polling data. We have to come together. We have to. So from my perspective, it's to me, it's about just, getting out there, putting one foot in front of the other, and just trying to make things better for people. Just hard-working people. People get up every morning and just want to figure out how to put food on the table for their kids, be able to have a little bit of breathing room, being able to make sure that they go to bed not staring at the ceiling like my dad did, wondering whether, since he didn't have health insurance, what happens if mom gets sick or he got sick. These are basic things. Basic things. And I'm of the view that the vast majority of people, including registered Republicans by and large, share that same view, that same sense of what is, what's appropriate. Justin Singh.
It's about dinner time for Joe Biden now.
President, I wanted to ask about your
He's thinking of the old country buffet,
been
like,
in office
shit,
for a
is it
couple
4
months.
o'clock?
There's obviously the meeting in Alaska that was a little theatrical, and there's the continued human rights abuses. So today, I'm wondering, are you more likely than you were when you came into office to maintain tariffs on China? Are you considering banning imports of forced labor products? And would you consider cutting off U.S. investment or Chinese access to international payment systems?
Well, look, each specifically.
Oh shit! Hey, I gotta take this. This is Jessie.
Smidgen of what the relationship with China really is about. I've known Xi Jinping for a long time.
Heck yeah! How are you, Chris?
Allegedly, by the time I left office as vice president, I had spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader had, because President Obama and the Chinese President Hu decided we should get to know one another, since it was inappropriate for the President of the United States to spend time with the Vice President.
I do, yeah. Do you want it?
But it was obvious he was going to become the new leader
It's
of China.
542. Yeah,
So I spent hours upon hours with him, alone with an interpreter, my interpreter and his, going into great detail. He's very, very straightforward. Doesn't have a Democratic with a small d bone in his body, but he's a smart guy. He's one of the guys like Putin who thinks that autocracy is the wave of the future. Democracy can't function in an ever complex world. So when I was elected and he called to congratulate me, I think to the surprise of the China experts who were his people on the call as well as mine listening, we had a 2-hour conversation for 2 hours. And we made several things clear to one another. I made it clear to him again, what I've told him in person on several occasions, that we're not looking for confrontation, although we know there will be steep competition. 2, that we'll have strong competition, but we'll insist that China play by the international rules. Fair competition, fair practices, fair trade. Thirdly, in order to compete effectively, I indicated that we're going to deal with China effectively. And we're going to need 3 things to do that. Telling our people. First, we're going to invest in American workers and American science. I said that all through the campaign. I say it again, and I'm setting up my administration to be able to do that, which is that, back in the 60s, we used to invest a little over 2% of our entire GDP in pure research and investment in science. Today, it's 0.7%. I'm going to change that. We're going to change that. The future lies in who can, in fact, own the future as it relates to technology, quantum computing, a whole range of things, including the medical fields. And so what I'm going to do is make sure we invest closer to 2%. One of the reasons why I've set up the PAB, the President's Board with Scientists and the like, again, is we're going to invest in medical research, cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, the things, industries of the future, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotech, and we're going to make real investments. China is out investing us by a long shot because their plan is to own that future. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to reestablish our alliances, and I've been very clear with them. It's not anti-Chinese, and we've talked about it. I want to make sure that, for example, later today, after this, as a matter of fact, shortly after this, which is fine, we're going close to an hour. I'm happy to go longer, but one of the things that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be speaking with 27 heads of state in Europe. And very shortly, I think within the next hour or so, I don't know the exact time. And earlier this month, and apparently it got the Chinese attention, that's not why I did it, I met with our allies and how we're going to hold China accountable in the region. Australia, India, Japan, and the United States, the so-called Quad. Because we have to have democracies working together. Before too long, I'm going to invite an alliance of democracies to come here to discuss the future. And so to make it clear that in order to deal with these things, we are going to hold China accountable to follow the rules. follow the rules, whether it relates to the South China Sea or the North China Sea or the agreement made on Taiwan or a whole range of other things. And the third thing, and the thing that I admire about dealing with Xi is he understands, he makes no pretense about not understanding what I'm saying anymore than I do him. I pointed out to him, no leader can be sustained in his position or her position unless they represent the values of the country. And I said, Mr. President, as I've told you before, Americans value the notion.
When was that decision made about my, when was that decision made?
We don't always
What's
live
the
up to our
date on that
expectations,
decision?
but it's
Yes.
a value system. We are founded on that principle. And as long as you and your country continues to so blatantly violate human rights, we are going to continue in an unrelenting way to call to the attention of the world
What was the date on that?
and make it clear.
Because I was just on the phone with the lady. I was just on the phone with the lady
And he
on
understood that.
Thursday.
Made it clear that no American president, at least one did, but no American president ever backed down from speaking out of what's
The lady
happening in
that I spoke to last Thursday.
what's happening in Hong Kong, what's happening in country. That's who we are.
She
The
said the
moment a
problem on my
president walks
file
away from that, as the last one did, is the moment we begin to lose our legitimacy around the world. It's who we are. So I see stiff competition with China. China has an overall goal, and I don't criticize them for the goal, but they have an overall goal to become the leading country in the world, the wealthiest country in the world, and the most powerful country in the world. That's not going to happen on my watch. The United States is going to continue to grow and expand.
All right, just to follow up on the meeting of democracies, is that where you expect in a multilateral way to make these decisions about sanctions or
No, that's not where I make the decision. That's where I make sure we're all on the same page. All on the same page. Look, I predict to you, your children or grandchildren are going to be doing their doctoral thesis on issue of who succeeded.
I've worked for this company for years.
That is what is at stake. Not just with China. Look around the world. We're in the midst of a fourth industrial revolution of enormous consequence. Will there be middle class? How will people adjust to these significant changes in science and technology, the environment? How will they do that? And our democracy is equipped because all the people get to speak.
Well, so then what happens when this other person that
It is clear, absolutely clear.
So you
Most
called
of the
me
scholars
through
I
a
dealt
different
with at
route,
Penn
right? You called me
agree with
because I
me
submitted a
around the
request
country.
for help.
That this is a battle between the utility of democracies in the 21st century and autocracies. If you notice, you don't have Russia talking about communism anymore. It's about an autocracy. Demand decisions made by a leader of a country. That's what's at stake here. We got to prove democracy works.
Mr. President, sorry, I know you haven't had a chance to address the tragedies in Georgia and Colorado. You had said to stay tuned for actions that you might take on gun control. Wondering if you've made a decision either about sending the manufacturer liability bill that you promised on day one to Capitol Hill, or executive actions like going after ghost guns or giving money to cities and states to battle gun control.
All the above. It's a matter of timing. As you've all observed,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
successful presidents, better than me,
Yeah, you said my only option
have been successful in large part because they know how to time what they're doing. Order it. Decide in priorities what needs to be done. The next major initiative is, and I'll be announcing it Friday in Pittsburgh in detail, is to rebuild the infrastructure, both physical and technological infrastructure of this country, so that we can compete and create significant numbers of really good paying jobs. Really good paying jobs. And some of you have been around long enough to know that used to be a great Republican goal initiative. I still think the majority of the American people don't like the fact that we are now ranked, 85th in the world in infrastructure. I mean, look, the future rests on whether or not we have the best airports that can accommodate air travel, ports that you can get in and out of quickly, so businesses decide. Some of you, if you're ever local reporters, and you found your governor or mayor trying to attract business to your community, what's the first thing the business asks? What's the closest access to an interstate highway? How far am I from a freight rail? Is the water available? Is enough water available for me to conduct my business? All the things that relate to infrastructure. We have somewhere,
Hey, sorry I was gone, guys.
Down for me, and they did, not for this, but for a longer discussion. We have somewhere in terms of infrastructure, we rank 13th globally in infrastructure.
I had to take a biz phone call
China is investing 3 times
from
more
the unemployment department. I knew they were going to call today.
Bridges, more
When
than
they told me I was
1/3 of our
denied.
Bridges, 251,000 of them need repairs. Some are physical safety risks or preservation work. 1 in 5 miles of our highways and major roads are in poor condition. That's 186,000 miles of highway. Aviation, 20% of all flights weren't on time, resulting in 1.5 million hours lost in production. 6 to 10 million homes in America still have lead pipes servicing their water lines. We have over 100,000 wellheads that are not capped, leaking methane. What are we doing? And by the way, we can put as many pipe fitters and miners on us to work capping those wells at the same price that they would charge to dig those wells. So I just find it frustrating. Talk about, last point I'll make in the infrastructure, and I apologize for spending more time on it, but is that if you think about it, it's the place where we will be able to significantly increase American productivity, at the same time providing really good jobs for people. But we can't build back to what they used to be. We have to build, the environment's already, global warming's already done significant damage. The roads that used to be above the water level didn't have to worry about where the drainage ditch was. Now you got to rebuild them 3 feet higher because it's not going to go back to what it was before. Only get worse unless we stop it. There's so much we can do. Look at all the schools in America. Most of you live in the Washington area now, but in your hometowns, I don't know where you're all from. How many schools where the kids can't drink the water out of the fountain? How many schools are still in a position where there's asbestos? How many schools in America we're sending our kids to don't have adequate ventilation? How many homes, buildings, office complexes are wasting billions of barrels of oil over time because they can't hold in the heat or the air conditioning because it leaks through the windows that are so porous and the connections? It's amazing. So there's so much we can do that's good stuff, makes people healthier, and creates good jobs. And I think that I got one more question here. And Janet from Univision.
Thank you, Mr. President. We too have been reporting at the border, and just like Cecilia, we ran into a pair of siblings who came in on Monday, were detained by CBP, had the phone number for their mother who lives in the U.S. We have contacted the mother. That's the only way they know her kids are here, because CBP today, Thursday, has not contacted that mother. So when can we expect your promise of things getting better with contacting and expediting?
Well, they're already getting better, but they're going to get real. They're going to a whole hell of a lot better real quicker. We're going to hear some people leaving. Okay, we can get this done. We're going to get it done. I had a long meeting with the entire team and several cabinet level officers the other night. We're going to be moving within the next week over 100,000. I mean, 1,000 people out of the Border Patrol into safe, secure beds and facilities. We're going to significantly ramp up. We're already out there contacting everyone from getting some of the employees at HHS. There's a lot of them doing other things and move them into making those calls. We're in the process of rearranging and providing for the personnel needed to get that done. But I admire the fact that you were down there, you're making the calls yourself. It's real. The next thing that has to happen, though, as you well know, has to happen. There have to be some certitude that this is actually mom, dad, or whomever. And there's ways to do that. There's ways to do that a little bit like determining whether or not you got the right code for your credit card. You know, what was your dog's name, kind of thing. I'm being a bit facetious, but not really. And also seeking harder data from DNA to birth certificates, which takes longer. So I want to do this as quickly, as humanly possible, and as safely as possible.
Well, no, treating the root causes in Latin America doesn't change things overnight. How do you realistically and physically keep these families from coming to the U.S. when things will not get better in their countries right away?
Well, I can't guarantee that, but I know, you know, that old thing, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. You know as well as I do. You cover it. You have it's not like somebody's sitting on a hand-hewn table in Guatemala, I mean, in somewhere in Mexico or in Guadalupe saying, I got a great idea. Let's sell everything we have. Give it to a coyote. Have them take our kids across the border into a desert where they don't speak the language. Won't that be fun? Let's go. That's not how it happens. People don't want to leave. When my great-grandfather got in a coffin ship in the Irish Sea, expectation was he going to live long enough on that ship to get to the United States of America? But they left because of what the Brits had been doing. They were in real trouble. They didn't want to leave, but they had no choice. So I can't guarantee we're going to solve everything, but I can guarantee we can make everything better. We can make it better. We can change the lives of so many people. And the other thing I want to point out to you, and I hope you point out, I realize it's much more heart-wrenching, and it is, to deal with a 5 and 6 and 7-year-old. But you went down there and you saw the vast majority of these children, 70% are 16 years old, 17 years old, and mostly males. Doesn't make it good, bad, or indifferent. But the idea that we have tens of thousands of kids in these god-awful facilities that are really little babies crying all night. There's some, that's true. That's why we got to act. And yesterday, I asked my team, both the director of the two agencies as well as others, I asked them what would they in fact, and I asked their opinion because they're the experts, but I said, focus on the most vulnerable immediately. But there's no reason why in the next month as people cross the border, that phone call can't be made in the first 48 hours. And begin.
If I may ask one last question. Have you had any talks with Senate Republicans who are threatening this administration with not considering the immigration legislation that was passed in the House until the situation at the border has been resolved?
No, because I know they have to posture for a while. They sort of got to get it out of their system. This is But I'm ready to work with any Republican who wants to help solve the problem or make the situation better. But folks, I'm going. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, get out of here, Joe Biden. I'm out of here too. Hey, you guys are fantastic. I am gone. Thank you to everybody who listened on a podcast or on one of our other outlets. 5,000 views.
I was going to win all day. I was going to win every day. I was going to win all day. I was going to win.